After the initial sort of public consultation, we were left with a huge range of things that people had suggested. From very straightforward, a soft play area, or a community cafe, a practice kitchen. We could see the practicalities of all of those, as well as a business nursery, and one what's become a famous incident now, the lemonade factory, which spawned off other ideas for microbrewery or other things that we hadn't possibly looked at. We then had to sift through those and try to decide what was realistic, what was practical, what might be something we would want to have in at the beginning, and what we would want to maybe look at coming back to later on, or possibly encourage other organisations to come in to provide that particular service or that particular facility. The next stage from that was then actually trying to work out how you fit all that into this big box of a building. And we then consulted with a firm of architects who came back with an outline plan for us, which we then took to a number of charrettes and other public engagements, and again got further feedback and further indications of what people felt they wanted to see. And that has all gone into an ongoing process of developing, and it's a very organic process as it goes forward. We do find that some things are much more at need. Other things would require heavy investments in both terms of financial and in time commitments from people. So then again, we do come back to this filtering down to find out what we can do, what's going to be realistic. So the most recent set of plans, and this is what we'll be going forward with, is to separate the building almost into three parts. As you say, as you know, it's on a large triangular plot of land. So imagine the peak of the triangle is the oldest part of the building, and it has always immediately sprung to us that would be suited for offices, sort of the business centre or business nursery, also for our own administrative facilities, and for the cafe to be in there. There's an infill section which is 1960s and 1930s part of the building, which has flat roofs and gullies and has a few problems. And we looked at a number of solutions to that, but the most sensible one going forward appears to be just to actually remove that part of the building altogether, which will then leave a large courtyard area, which will be fenced off and enclosed and tastefully decorated. And that will then, at the bottom end of the pyramid, at the bottom end, the back end of the plot, will leave a large range of buildings, which is mainly very large classrooms. There's some ancillary buildings in there, the boiler house and things like that in there. But that then leaves us really with a sort of phase one and a phase two. The phase one is to get the groundwork done, get the business area up and running, get the cafe in. And there will be rooms in there that can be used for community groups to get things actually running. And then we can start to see how the next stage, developing those other buildings, can go. We can actually see what the demand for them is. Do we want to keep them as great big rooms? Do we want to split them down into small units? Is there maybe a tenant that would come in and take over the whole lot? Which would be wonderful. Because in the long term, if we have an organisation who takes over a chunk of the building as a tenant, that would be, it gives us an income, and we can then build on that. Yes, as a group, the general public in the town will get a benefit from it, because there's a lack. There are a number of places who offer facilities, but they don't always have traffic access or parking nearby, or make it easy for getting equipment in and out, or even getting equipment in and set up on a semi-permanent basis. So there's a couple of youth groups and things like that that would be of interest to get them involved. There's community groups like the Men's Shed have expressed interest in taking one of the rooms as a workshop or as a training room. And there's things like that. It is keeping it as flexible and as open as possible to not tie ourselves to, you know, our vision and nothing else. We want to see how it develops and how it goes on to get the best out of it. The community's attachment to the building, that initial visceral reaction from the, I mean, it was a big turnout at the meeting. People went, we want to keep it. It was what they're familiar, you know, it's an iconic building in the town, it's instantly recognisable. And so many people have got a relationship with it. Either they've been at school there, they've worked there in council departments, they've accessed council services there, or, you know, they just know of the building because it's always been there, and they wanted to keep that. We have looked at the possibility of actually clearing the site, and there was another organisation initially looked at clearing it and putting housing on it. But no, you know, we really want to keep it, or as much of it as possible, as practical, because there is a definite attachment to the town. It's more than just a sentimental attachment to it. It's, you know, it's a real part of people's lives. To be honest, we've had massive amounts of help from everyone. The local council can see the benefit. There's a number of organisations that are also, they exist to help projects like this move ahead. The main barrier is funding. We have to present a very solid business case, and not all of us have come from a business background by any means, so we are running to catch up, to learn how to do this, and then approaching government departments, local government departments, national funding organisations, and they all seem to speak their own particular language. It's full of acronyms and shorthand terms that they understand, and we're sort of going, excuse me, could you tell us just what did that mean? What are those initials? What act? What bill? And so, you know, there's all that. It's, if you imagine, it's like trying to build your house and you've never experienced it before. You've got to get help, you've got to ask for it, but you need to know what help you need to ask for in the first place. Otherwise you suddenly find yourself going, oh, we should have spoke to somebody about that. Oh, right, well, what do we do now? And just the time scale. I know it said earlier, you know, when people went to that initial meeting, there were people talking about it as if within a couple of weeks, really, we could all just get tins of paint and go in and decorate it and it'll be up and running. And we just went, not really. We thought maybe 3 years. Even our time scale is changing as we realise just how much is, you know, what's involved. Put a tender out, and we were approached by a number of architects firms, and when we looked through them, yeah, it was a case of that this was a company who seemed to get what we were trying to do. Moreover, they were coming up with positive suggestions and saying to us, have you thought of doing it this way, or what about adding this in or leaving that out till later? They came to us with this idea of doing it in phased stages, rather than, as we were trying to do, eat the whole cake at once, you know, just got to get it all done. And they went, no, you know, you can pace yourselves a bit here. So yeah, they were good. They gave us good, helpful advice, and you know, it was a good, positive relationship with them. Just 3 words. Yeah. Sheer bloody mindedness. A gleeful optimism, and just a willingness to try, rather than just, you know, assume that because we're a wee village in the middle of nowhere, nothing ever happens and nothing ever will. People have got to do it. We've got to do it. If no one else, who else?